Welcome to the Audiobook Lovin Podcast, discussing all things audiobooks with the authors that write the stories and the narrators that perform them. Brought to you by Viviana, Enchantress of Books.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Season 3, Episode 19 of the Audiobook Lovin Podcast. And today I am chatting with narrator Vanessa Moyen. Welcome to the Audiobook Podcast, Vanessa. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to talk to you. And then you'll be in Allure in September, so I'll get to hang out with you. And if we're doing the whole hugging thing, we'll do the hug thing.
Oh, we're going to hug. It's going to be great.
Yeah. So I'm excited for this conversation to happen. So why don't we start with having you tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been narrating, and how you got started?
Sure. Okay. So I grew up in the wacky world of musical theater, and I actually have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in musical theater from Emerson College in Boston. And when I graduated from college, I started doing voiceover on the side. So even while moving from place to place, collecting regional theater credits in Oklahoma and South Carolina and New Hampshire and Indiana and California, I took my little microphone and my creepy cardboard box set up and moved it around with me, and finally moved to New York City in 2012. That reminds me, I'm coming up almost on 10 years in New York City.
Wow.
Which is definitely something to celebrate. So after a few years after moving to New York City, musical theater and I weren't really getting along super well. I was working 5-day jobs. I was sick all the time, and I was sick of waiting in lines and maybe getting to sing 8 bars of music before being cut off. And honestly, it took me a while to realize that I was actually pretty miserable, and I was struggling to find the joy in the art form, which was one of the main reasons why I wanted to pursue musical theater to begin with. So it wasn't until I got a tonsillectomy in 2015. So remember, I was always sick, specifically with strep throat. So the tonsillectomy was much needed. And I had to find a different career focus while my voice finally fully healed, for singing. And it was during that time that I started to fall more and more in love with voiceover. And then I ended up leaving musical theater, and dove full force into voiceover, and I haven't looked back. And it took me a couple of years to build up a big enough author and client base to finally quit all my day jobs and become a narrator and voice actor full time. So that was in 2017. So I've been full time for about 5 years now.
Wow. You like even numbers, 10 years in New York, 5, multiples of 5s.
Right? This is exactly when I had to talk to you. Right?
Yeah.
Because never again will they be that even.
No, yeah. And here you are, over 250. I mean, I think Audible is saying 273, but we always know it's probably more than that between what's in production and what's coming out. Audiobooks later, and here you are.
Yeah. And God, I've learned so much.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I love chatting with you guys, is because having, an idea of, hey, I think I can do this voiceover thing versus, oh my God, this is what voiceover is. And then, improvement on your own processes and what you've done and what you learned is just fascinating conversations.
Yeah.
And, people because a lot of people think it's like, oh, I've been told I sound good, and so I'm just going to sit here and talk.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and the good thing about I think the beautiful thing about actors too, is we have this like gift/curse of self-evaluation. So you're constantly giving yourself notes and trying to improve upon, how you can tell the story better. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think it's fascinating. I love talking to people about it too.
Yeah. So you've cast for a book. You got the notification that you've been cast, and now you're given the manuscript. What's that prep process look for you?
So I start reviewing the manuscript, which means I skim it and I take notes on all the circumstances, the characters, the setting, and any voice quality notes that I need to do throughout the performance. So like he growled, she screamed, she whispered. So I mark the whole text up with notes, highlight the characters different colors. And then if I'm working with my indie authors, I send a big fat pre-production email filled with all kinds of questions and goodies, such as character samples and pronunciation questions and links to Dropbox folders and all that. So the prep process, I'm usually prepping a book while I'm narrating another one and closing out another one. So they all kind of overlap. It's hard to say how long it takes me to prep a book. But I would say probably like one work day to review it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure that process has gotten significantly easier as
the year
progressed, because I'm sure the first time that you're going, pink for this and purple for that.
Right. Exactly. And, everything that all of my systems in place have been built specifically because I've been burned. So the character samples, I once recorded a 12-hour book, and then I had a rights holder say, "Oh, I really hate the way that you voiced this lead character. Can you go back?" And I was like, "Oh!" And because he was one of the lead characters, and I'm like, "Well, no, fiddlesticks." What'd you say? "Oh, fiddlesticks, peppermint."
Yes, all the creative ways to say "fucking hey." Yeah,
exactly. So, and then pronunciations, the same thing happened. I had missed something, and then I got feedback that I, did not pronounce something the way that they heard it in their head. So, yeah. And I mean, this is, like I said, I've learned a lot since I started.
Now doing this now for 5 years, and having a process and stuff like that, do you prefer it, or really have that moment of oh yes, when an author actually gives you this stuff in advance without you having to ask for it?
Oh, I love that. Yeah. I love that. I'm like, "Oh, you just made I love these authors. They send me this beautiful spreadsheet of all the things and vocal notes and summaries of each time. I'm like, "Oh my God, I could kiss you right now."
Well, there's seems to have been two camps when it comes down to producing an audiobook. There's some that are completely hands off with the author, okay, thanks for wanting to do the audiobook with us. We got it from here. And then they cut off communication sometimes between the narrator and the author. And I know that's also very old school, and also maybe still prevalent in the five, the big five production, houses.
Right.
And now that you guys are a bit more in the wild, it's come to be known, and in conversations, that there's a lot of easier things to go by. And when the author provides this stuff, now the production companies are asking it on behalf of the narrators and then handing it over to you guys, or the author hires the narrators because they're doing it on their own without a production company. And they're like, "Here you go." And you're like, "Oh."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I always feel it definitely gives me those first day of school nerves whenever I work with a big publisher and I don't get that kind of communication beforehand. So I'm like, okay, because writers, they spend so long with these stories, and it's their child. And I come in here and I'm like, one business day through prepping, and here's what I got. My first impression of this chick was this, and then that's how I'm going to do the voice or whatever. So it's always a little scary when they leave us to our own devices.
Yeah. But also it must be helpful to be told, okay, there's this one character that's going to pop up in chapter 4 and chapter 8.
Yes.
And she's very happy and go lucky and stuff like that, but do not make her Valley Girl, because she's actually the heroine in book 7.
Exactly. Yes. That's exactly right. I love it. Yeah. And they don't want to listen to the whole book of Valley Girl.
Yeah. Or the opposite, to if it's a guy and you're doing narration or solo narration, and he decided to do it this deep down growly, I'm hurting my throat, but he only has 4 lines kind of a tone. And now he's the hero in book 5.
Wow, you know it so well.
Yeah, I've there's been some conversations with narrators and authors regarding this stuff, and also, but listening to it as a listener, you kind of realize in most cases, traditionally, when it comes down to series, they'll try to hold on to the same narrators for the whole book. For the whole series. And that's great, especially when the couple has multiple arcs, so multiple books over an overall arc. I'm okay.
Yes.
I don't know if it's a popular opinion or unpopular opinion. I'm okay with switching up narrators when the book's hero and heroine, the couple is different than the original.
Yeah. Me too. I totally agree with you. And I'm not trying to put myself out of a job here, but like I have a couple series that I'm working on where, every 3 or 4 books, they switch the heroine. And I'm like, are you sure? I literally email them and I'm like, are you sure you still want me? Are you sure? Are you sure I can recommend somebody else for you? Well, because I do think it helps tell the story, right?
Yeah, but not only that, but I think too, it happens. And all of a sudden in book 8, it's been 4 different couples. So, one book, kind of a thing. And they're all having dinner together at the dinner table and they're all having conversations and you're going, oh, mother of Christ. Because your range can only go so much. And then how you try to differentiate, and obviously you have the notes, but still having to go back and listen.
Right.
There's a lot that goes into it.
And especially if they don't have like distinct accents or you're like, okay, so this person has a list.
No. Okay, great. Thanks.
Cool.
It's I think authors are starting to learn what works for them in their stories, and also sometimes even the fandom as far as what they like. And people are starting to like go into more duets as well because of that, and multicast when it comes down to those bigger books with multiple.
I love duet. I love multicast. Yeah. They're so fun to listen to. Oh,
yeah. Have you done any that are like that in those styles?
Yes. Yeah. And they're not, I think they're more fun to listen to than they are maybe to do, because especially, it's because you're not really listening. You're not in the studio with them. We're all recording by ourselves, and they don't even really send us the final production. So it's definitely more fun to listen to. It's more cohesive for sure. Yeah.
I can only imagine too when it comes on to produce. First of all, getting everybody's schedule availability. I know I've done that from a production manager perspective. That was fun. Yeah, I mean, when you have to do a spreadsheet to figure out what everybody's availability is and what aligns and color code, you're going, okay.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I got this. But
also, how do you even do that?
Practice and patience, lots of patience, and maybe a glass of liquor. Say.
Yeah, there you go. Something hard. None of this wine crap.
Yeah, no cocktails here when you're doing scheduling. Hell no. But when the final product is done, it's amazing. And it's probably a little weird on your end, especially when you're doing duets, that you're only getting your end of the stuff. I mean, unless you're doing the whole prep of the whole book, and then you kind of know where some of this stuff is going, but still you're going, dude, really, I don't know what's going on. But here,
yeah, especially like sex scenes or whatever, and you're like, okay. It's like saying every other line, and you're like, oh, that's fun.
Well, I mean, it's romance, so have you gotten used to doing the sex scenes when it comes down to the narrations, the stuff that you've done so far?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say like used to, I think desensitized is probably a better word for it. I mean, I never really read, I guess like I read romance, but not really more explicit, like for fun. I mean, before. So it was definitely new to me when like the words were coming out of my mouth, and I'm like, wow. But yeah, I think I've stopped like blushing whenever a scene comes up. And anyway, I'm just by myself in the closet. So
yeah, there's been stories that some narrators have shared, but they've had to go into the studio, and I know one in particular likes to fuck with their engineer, and we'll say some of the lines and just look at the engineer and smile, and I'm like, oh my God, you're so bad, I love it.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh. Because it is like a little. Yeah, I mean, audiobooks are so intimate, right? Like it's not meant to be like performed. So yeah. Oh, that's so funny.
Oh yeah. Well, you have to have fun with the gig,
Yes, exactly.
Otherwise, why do anything? You have to have fun.
Right. And also like, there should be no shame in it. Everybody does it, right?
Yep.
I mean, I guess not everyone, but like most people can relate to these experiences anyway. So, there's nothing shameful about, I don't think anyway.
No, yeah. And I think it's opened up lines of communications between couples, and even discovering that you may have a kink, not realizing that it was a kink.
Right.
And learning that there are certain things that you like or you want more of, and then also being able to have that conversation with your partner.
Right, exactly. And I think in other cultures, it's so much more acceptable to talk about sex and to be open.
Yes.
And for some reason in the US, we're still pretty conservative about all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. It's just one of those, like, what do you mean? There's other cultures that are having wine at the age of 14 and smoking. And there's all these other different things that happens. But I think that it's definitely getting better when it comes down to those types of conversations, especially within some of the communities. So that's always fun. And it's good to see that moving in that trajectory of having it be a positive versus such a negative taboo, fade to black. We're not talking about that right now, kind of a thing. Right.
When in reality, like I said, everyone does it. So like, what's the big taboo there? I've heard from listeners too, that they're like even embarrassed, at the park, the meeting other parents or whatever. And they're like, you like to read? What do you like to read? And they're like, and they're even like scared to say, what they enjoy reading or what genre. It's like, okay.
Well, that's when you have to HR it. You have to HR it.
Exactly.
And that's
and then
right.
You have to dig a little deeper and be like, wait, so what title are you reading? Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. It's about this heroine that is self-discovering what her likes are and knowing that she can be independent and things like that. And there is also this thing about, not being cruel to animals and stuff like that. You're reading a shifter. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is why they pay you the big bucks.
Yeah. Oh, I can HR anything.
We could all use one of you in our pocket.
Oh yeah. It's all about that I've learned too, because I've been that listener. I've been that reader that, people have seen me or they know, they're like, oh, what are you reading now? And I'm like, I don't know about this. So it's telling them what it is about the story that I love, and what the characters are like. And then there just also happens to be some spicy sex scenes or some spicy dialogue. And I think too, that's where there are two camps within romance. You have those that are more the readers and the listeners that are more into the smut, which is nothing wrong with that. Right. And they will devour those books. But the first thing they talk about is how spicy things are. And then you'll have the other camp where they're telling you that the story plot is great, the development of the characters and stuff like that. And by the way, it's spicy and good, so those it's almost like, where do you go first? And that's kind of, I also say, it's like, well, if you're going to introduce me to something and me, which route are you going to go with? So that's all you got to do. Exactly. Yeah. The playmates at the park, and you may want to go with the story plots.
Yeah.
Until you get to know them better and like, oh girl, it's a 10 out of 10.
Right. Exactly. We'll have some wine. We'll talk about it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Until it's all about knowing your audience. You got to read the room. Got to read the room. Just like you're reading the book, you got to read the room.
Totally.
Yeah. So when it comes down to these characters, and they have, it's no longer the traditional, a lot of the POV is just the heroine, and then the hero pops in or the vice versa. But there's always the best friend and the enemies and the pack and this and that, depending on the genre. How do you go about selecting how the characters are going to sound, aside from getting that description of he has a growly voice or she has a peppy voice kind of a thing with the tones and stuff like that? How do you go about that process?
So I took a good amount of animation classes. And one of the interesting things that I find that is a good crossover between the two niches in voiceover is that in animation, you're supposed to, or one of the techniques is to make your face look like the cartoon character. If you have like a mock-up of them. So if they have really big eyes, then you open your eyes really big. Or if they have a really pinched nose, then you kind of scrunch so reading physical descriptions of the characters helps me kind of develop or create a voice around that. And sometimes you're not that lucky. Sometimes you don't have that. Sometimes they have no, if they're from the South, cool, or they're French, or they're this, or they're that. You can kind of put an accent or a dialect on it if you don't have the physical But for the most part, I watch and pick up and mimic a lot. And I've been doing this my whole life. And like, I think a lot of actors, and have written down a lot of character references from my own life and from TV shows or from, my neighbor, don't tell him. And have created characters. And then I have a little repertory cast of characters that I can cast. So when I read a book, I'm like, oh my gosh, wow, now I really can't use full names, but yeah, so-and-so would be great in this book, or so-and-so would be great. Oh man, this description matches exactly my third grade teacher. Perfect. So that's kind of how I go about it.
Yeah. It's always fun, I think, especially when some of the authors will share that that they have a partner and that their partner was like, so I'm the hero, right? And the authors are like, yes, honey, yes, you are the hero. Yep, there you go. I'm sure that some narrators that have, partners and stuff like that will probably be like, oh, are you making him sound like me because I sound so hot? Yeah, dear, that's exactly what that is.
Yeah, that's 1,000% you.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's who I was envisioning, baby. That's who it was. Gotta love it. You mentioned,
and we just keep laughing.
Yeah, well, it's just one of those things where you kind of wonder, like, no, not everything's about you, and and we also like some, like, diversity. So, yeah, I may make you the villain one day because you were being an asshole.
There you go.
Oh, fun times. Spouse, partners are always fun. But you had mentioned about giving the characters the accents and stuff like that based on, what information you're given. What is your favorite accent to perform?
Right now, I think it changes from time to time. I went through like a Scottish phase that I was really excited about. my husband wanted to strangle me. He was like, what is happening? And I'm like, it's cool. Like, it's totally fine. Right now I'm really into Southern, and one of the books that I'm working on, it's specifically Appalachian. And I got to learn this accent. One of the authors, like, best friends, the character was based on her. And so she sent me a ton of samples that I studied. So that character is super fun. That accent is what I'm really, or the dialect is what I'm really into right now.
Cool. So you're actually walking around the house with a Scottish accent and you're saying all these things and he's like, stop.
Yeah. I mean, when you have a kid, you're doing wacky things anyway with a kid. Like, you might as well just add an accent,
That is true. Yeah, that is true. Why not? Yeah. But especially there's also some accents that you're going, oh, please no, or that they're difficult, or there's just one thing that you just can't do because it's how they pronounce, like my type of line is like in Spanish, how we roll the R's. Sometimes some people can do that, some people can't. So when it comes down to accents, what's the hardest for you to perform?
Oh, I had the two hardest recently, that I was recently thrown was Egyptian and Belgian, because Belgian is tough because they have like a French influence, but you can't go too French with it. And Egyptian is like, well, what the F is that even sound like?
I know.
Actually, my husband's barber is Egyptian. I should have gone over and been like, hey, Marcelo, talk to me.
Yeah, just keep talking.
Right.
Yes, yeah.
I'm gonna hit record. Don't worry. Totally fine.
Yeah. Oh, well, hey, he'll have a new side hustle,
Right.
Provide some audio samples of words with an Egyptian accent. Why not?
Yeah.
You know a guy. Know a guy.
Oh my God.
For
exactly.
your co-narrators. Yeah. Well,
that's right.
There's certain things that you just can't find online, and also, or they're more of the character version, and you don't want that, and it's like, I can imagine it's hard. But then even some of the local ones, like the Boston accent, is hard. I know people are like, no, will not touch the Boston accent with like a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, Boston is, well, after living in New York, I could do it really well when I lived in Boston, but now living in New York, I feel like every time I try and do Boston, it just slips into New York. So It's close. They're so close. They're just not quite, but they're so different.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. I went to Boston about maybe almost 20 years ago, and
Okay.
I'm the girl that can pick up the accent. So if I'm anywhere near one after 2 or 3 days, there's something in the tone of my voice that the accent gets picked up on.
Yes.
And the one word that I cannot stop ever after 20 years is ka. So I always say I'm going to go to the ka. And I had to purposely bust out with I'm going to the car. So I had to stop for the car. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be at the car.
Oh, it's so fun though.
Yeah, that one word that I'm not getting paid to say is fun. But if I would ever get to do it, and like it would never happen because I'm not a narrator. But if I were to ever get hired to do something, no.
Oh my gosh.
I'll do the word.
Yes.
You know.
And you know what? There are so many weird. I don't know if other narrators that you've spoken to have also complained about this, but there are certain things that I didn't even know that I said wrong until I became a narrator. And I'm like, wait, what? How do you say jaguar? I say jaguar. I've been saying jaguar for over 30 years and no one's been saying anything to me about it until finally I get 250 pickups. And I'm like, jaguar. I'm like, oh, God damn.
You don't know what you don't know. And that's the difference too when it comes down to, yes, that's how anybody would pronounce it, but this is also where dialect comes into play.
Right.
And people are now realizing that because of things like audiobooks. And because, while we're always global, conversation isn't always. And how to say certain words, like I always say, jaguar. But I also know that if you want to add more of that, jaguar, you start getting a little bit more fancy, there's certain things like that.
That's the only way I'm going to say it. Jaguar.
Yeah. It then goes straight into something else, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Just long and slow.
Yeah. Jaguar. Yeah. But no, thanks to TikTok and the narratives that are on there, there's how this ongoing almost I want to call it a series of words that I've discovered that I've been saying wrong for my entire life. And that's what that, they'll bust out with that. Yeah. And there are words that are like, I've never even heard of before. And then others that I'm like, no, that's kind of how the South says it, but then the North is different. So if your character is from the South, then that's the right pronunciation.
Right.
So stick with it. I'm sorry they had to do 200 and something pickups. That sucks.
Yeah, it's definitely not the first time, unfortunately. Oh, the other one too was I still have to look this up every time. Archangel and Archdemon. So one is with the CH and one is with the K, which makes me sound like a total ding dong bareface. But like, honestly, I really do have to look it up every time because it's just not words that you would say in normal life.
Yeah. Nope. There's still some words that even before we started recording officially, like I even asked how, the pronunciation of the last name was, because I think one way and the way that you may choose to say it is completely different. And so that's where that lines of communication, authors and narrators works and helps.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. It's those little things that can make make it a great day or damn it day. But the gig is a gig.
But and you're like, cue the whiskey.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, you gotta have some fun with it.
That's right. Yeah.
That's all you gotta do. Yeah. That's a different conversation of after you've had to do those pickups and the whiskey has kicked in, that you do that TikTok and saying, I did it. And then you say it wrong anyways.
That's right. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. You've done a variety of different genres. And romance, I've always said that it's like romance is the umbrella term with the subgenres underneath it being the different, subgenres. I usually explain that a lot more eloquently. Umbrella term is the romance with all the different subgenres underneath it being, romance, but PNR and contemporary and Omega versions of that. Do you have a favorite subgenre to perform?
I really like fantasy, I guess. I like listening to, real romance, but I think fantasy is probably my favorite. And I really like those just like desperately romantic, especially, I don't know, something really gets my jollies off about fairies. I really like the fairy world. And I think that that's something about like childhood me just loving to imagine fairies everywhere. So specifically, yeah, that's what I really like.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, that has been very popular as of late. And then how they divide the different, communities within the fairy world and the fays and all this stuff. And you're like, damn, they really went detailed in there. And then you realize,
right?
Yeah, that all this time as a kid, you're going pretty wings. And
right. And you're like, God, you have to be careful what you promise them. Okay.
Yeah. And
no
now you're like, yes.
And
now you're like, don't touch that. That's enough. Go away.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
See, there are lessons to be learned in books, like audiobooks and romance. Is there a genre that you have yet to narrate in that you want to narrate in?
Probably like, I guess like, I've never really narrated in classic fiction, and I think it would be really fun. Especially, the stuff that I kind of grew up loving, like Anne of Green Gables and Little Women. I think that those would be really, really fun to read again as an adult, and even more fun to narrate.
Yeah, those classes are always great. I'm all for having someone else come pick up the reins, but just don't change it.
Yeah, I know. Well, unfortunately, I sound really modern, so it's probably going to sound brand spanking new.
But I mean, there's a classic. There's something about it when it just stays the same, and especially something like Anne of Green Gables or Little Women, where there's nothing too controversial, the Breakfast Club 1980 stuff.
Yeah, right. You're like, don't touch it.
Yeah, but at the same time, for as controversial as some of that stuff is now, but was no big deal then, at the same time, going, don't touch it.
Yeah.
Make it, be inspired by it, but don't touch it. Yeah. It's like, even like Netflix did a Persuasion by Emily Dickens recently with the actress. And so I watched it. Reviews have been mixed, to say the least. But I also think it's how you go about it. I knew I was not going to be watching PBS, marathon of Jane Austen, or Emily Dickinson and stuff like that. So I knew that I was not going into that to begin with. So I was okay. It was it was cute. It was okay in the background.
Yeah, it's tough when you have this whole thing that shaped such a huge part of who you are as a person, and then you see the wrong interpretation of it, or wrong to you, right? It doesn't feel like home, and you're like, what?
Yeah. Well, did you watch the Anne of Green Gables with that was on PBS years ago with Megan? What is her
Megan
name?
Follows.
Yes, Megan Follows.
Yes.
Did you love that? Did you like that?
I loved it. That was the one
too.
that I grew up with, and then this newer version.
It was hard.
Like it's serious. Yeah, I tried so hard, because they really are telling a different story than, they're focusing more on, it seemed so much darker. Yeah. I don't know. I just wanted Megan Follows.
Yeah, I know. It's like, that's my Anne Shirley.
Exactly.
But then when I was intrigued and excited about it at first, because I'm like, I love the story. And then as the seasons, the season progressed, season 1, I was going, is that different? And you try to keep with it, and then after that you're like, no, I'm good for now. I'll just wait until it's all the series, and I'll just binge watch it. And then at the end, the way that it ended, I was like, no, wait, what? No, I want more. And I'm going, it's still not Megan Follows. But
yes.
So
how is that? It's crazy.
It is. Again, it's one of those things that's iconic. Like you were saying, you grow up with that. That is what you know, and that's what you adhere things to and compare things to. And it was so well done. If you guys have not watched the Anne of Green Gables that Megan Follows does, it is fantastic. And it's the 3 books I think they did.
How can you watch it now? I don't even know. We had it on VHS.
So did I.
I'm like, how can we watch it? I wonder, there must be some kind of streaming or download.
There has to be something. I mean, even good old PBS must have something. Hold on, let me see. Anne of Green Gables.
There we go. Yeah, and they also came out while you're searching. Well, they also came out with the newer Little Women too. And that one I was like, oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, there's just all these things, and people try to put a new spin, or they try to make it more modernized. So so the younger folks can get to it, but not realizing that the younger folks sometimes prefer the vintage and the antique.
Yeah.
Well, and
their classic stories too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Amazon does have it on DVD.
All right.
Yeah.
Now we have to get a DVD player.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing though. I would say, well, I'm like, wait a minute, most computers nowadays don't have a DVD drive. Fuck.
Exactly. Well, I think we have Xbox here, so maybe we can use it on that.
Yes, that is one of the perks about having gamers in the house, is that you always have a way to watch these movies that are DVD stuff. But again, I'm sure it'll be streaming somewhere. Some anniversary will come up again, and it'll get popular, and it'll get
Look, we're making it popular right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally. I mean, seriously, it's a classic. It's done, but the acting is done so well. And I think that's also too where audiobooks come into play, is that acting that you guys provide. It's not an over the top thing. I don't need to have the guns a blazing and the thundering in the background, though sometimes those are kind of nice when you have a full on production. But when you guys are getting emotionally, it seems that you guys are emotionally attached to the character. And you're able to project what that emotion is that to the listener. It's just fantastic when you guys are able to do that. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why we love the audio so much, is that that's
one of the reasons I love audio. When you really feel a narrator getting so intimately attached, it's just, it's such a cool experience as a listener. Yeah, it's almost like they're telling you their story, which is really cool.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And have you been at that point now where just you got to stop, either because you have the giggles because it's so damn funny, the story, not because you're not your blooper, that's a different
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, or so emotional that you're crying because the character is going through something. Have you gotten to that point?
Definitely. And there's a couple different camps on that, or schools of thought, right, where you keep recording through the tears, you keep you can always go back, or you can stop. I don't know. I've actually heard it done. I've heard it done where you can hear the tears at the edge there, but they're not full on sobbing. And I like it as a listener. I think it's honest.
Yeah. Or after an interview, you bust it, you find out that no, they weren't crying at all. I'm like, damn, you're good.
Yeah, right. And you're like, you got me.
Yeah, but I also when the text can make you emotional to the point where you're producing the tears or the laughs. I think that also speaks a lot to the story and the writing.
Totally. And I think that's the other reason that I like to skim it instead of read it. I used to read it really intricately in the beginning when I first started each of the stories. And now once you kind of learn the formula of romance, fantasy, that genre, YA, or new adult or whatever it is, they all have very similar formulas. And once you kind of learn that, it's easier to follow along the story. But I find that if I skim it versus reading it all, then I can emotionally engage better because it's almost like a surprise. In some parts, I'm like, oh my God, that's the nicest thing they've ever said to me. But it's not really me,
Yeah.
The things hit harder, right?
Well, there's also, like you were saying, to camps too, when it comes down to the prep work. I know some narrators that do cold reads. They don't prep it at all, with the exception of getting the information that they have a Russian accent, for an example,
Wow.
and then some, because they want to be surprised. They want to be if they're the villain, they don't want to purposely give something away in chapter 1 that you're not going to learn, because you're the villain. You automatically, he says something in a specific way that you're going, maybe he's the villain, because there was a tone in the voice.
Yeah.
And then other narrators are like, oh, hell no, I am Google spreadsheeting that shit from day one. And then the in between. So it's interesting. And I always find it fascinating how that works. And it works for some, it works for others. And I'm always like, you do you, boo.
Now I'm really curious to hear, like, some of my favorite narrators. I'm curious to know if they do surprise cold reads, or if what their prep work is like, because that's interesting. No, there's no way I would go in with a cold read. I have to know where I'm going.
Yeah. Well,
I'm just going to get in the car.
Yeah. I'm a planner, so I would have to know. So I hear you.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
It's one thing to get in the car and just drive in one direction. Oh, look, there's a Home Goods. I'm going to stop by. Their Halloween section's out. But it's,
right.
Versus something like a book that I'm getting paid for and it's taking time. Yeah, no.
Exactly.
I'm a planner. I am planning that shit out.
Same. We'll plan together, okay?
Oh, perfect. We're good. The dynamic duo now that we've become.
I know, right? We're going to watch Megan Follows, and then we're going to plan the next time we're going to.
Yeah, totally have a viewing party. But here's the other thing too. I would be the friends and the person that would bust out with. So, Vanessa, I need you to record your outtakes because they're funny. And I know that sometimes people don't do that because the idea of wanting, it's a vulnerability, you're showcasing a mistake that happened. But sometimes you guys are hilarious on the flubbing of it all. And, I think tends to TikTok. I mean, like, I know like Gary Furlong, for me, I'm like, oh, there we go, Gary. Because he's hilarious on, when it comes down to some of that. And the other ones that are, they come up with the fuckity fucks after, so right. So do you record or do you keep those for, just for fun? I know some people will record them and keep them, others share them, some do not.
I wish I did. I really wish I did, but I do punch and roll. So they just kind of disappear into the ether. But yeah, I mean, it's funny too, because it's such an interesting job, because if there's anything else going on in your mind, you see, pencil and it looks like penis. And then, you know what I mean? Like there's a fine line between like, what you see on the screen and what's in your mind. And you're like, oh, well, that's not where it goes. That's just not right. Go back.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. Focus, Vanessa. Okay. We're back.
And that does not happen in the booth, as I am scrolling through my Facebook feed a couple of days ago. I think it was maybe about a week ago. An ad for back to school at Walmart comes out. And it's, of course, usually they'll hit the college levels, because kids going away for college are this emotional thing for parents. And it said dorm, and some reason I read dom. And
you're like, okay.
Yeah, I might need a palate cleanser if this is where I'm going.
Oh my God. Right. Yeah. So thank God for punch and roll, but it's not a live record, right?
I know. Hence, this is why I don't do. People have asked me like, Viv, why don't you do like these chats with the authors and the narrators live? I'm like, are you kidding? No.
Terrible idea.
Terrible idea. No. There will be things that get edited out for the safety of both our concerns and everybody else, and stuff like that. But it can be fun at the same time. But yeah, those lovely bloopers and what we see and what we hear and then what we say. Oh my goodness. Thankfully, I wasn't doing anything in public that I had to read that out loud and, kind of a thing. So.
Right.
But it still takes you aback. It still takes you aback when you're going, wait, what? What
did I just say? Wait, did I just say that? And then you have to go back and you're like, I did just say that.
Yeah, I did. I don't know why I read dom instead of dorm. But okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what I am curious about like a proof listener's job too, because I mean, not curious enough to actually do it, but like they have to painstakingly go through and come out and see whatever mistakes we've made throughout the recording process. And there's always one in every book that I don't catch. And they put like a little smiley face next to it. And I'm like, oh, what have I done? But I imagine them rolling and also maybe judging. So
as a proofer, there are moments where it's so slight. And this is also where I from a perfectionist perspective, I'm like, okay, how big of a deal is this? I mean, I know what he said and I know what he meant. And actually here's a perfect example. It was the text said did not in two words. And the narrator read it as didn't.
Right. So what do you do?
What do I do? I'm like, at the end of the day, message gets across just fine. but I err on in that case, I err on the side of caution saying, if you want to do something about it, this is what the book said in the script versus what was said, y'all decide.
That's right.
And
totally
the author,
fair.
and I thought, okay, well, maybe in some cases, some authors will be like, no, that is not the words that I used, and
I
they
know,
might get it. I know. But in this case, they're like, it's the same thing, Viviana. Why would you? I go, I'm not going to assume anything.
Right.
You know what they say about assuming. I said, after the both of you ain't not going to happen. And then there's been times too where I put the book and I'm like, where did the British go? Because they're like, you're supposed to have a British accent, dude. And it just slid off.
Oh no. Yeah. And that's why you get in the car with directions.
Yeah.
You're halfway through the book and you're like, wait, what? She's Spanish? That's crazy.
Oh yeah. Oh, in this case, it was one of those where it was, I'm trying to remember. I think he was making fun or something, or he was a British character and he started off fine, but after like a couple of, sentences, it just came off. And at the very end, it just completely fell off. So you're like, it's too obvious. And again, totally up to at this point, I'm going, I noticed it. I'm writing it down. What you all do with it, it's on you, boo. And that's all we can do. Sometimes they'll do it and they'll take it and they're like, no, we got to go back. And depending also on the narrator, and if they're right or not, they might do it, they might not do it. Anyway,
right. Yeah, that's why you visibly cringed. Actually, I can't see you, but if I could see you, I'm sure when I said 250 pickups for Jaguar, you were like, oh no. Yeah. That sucks even hard. I mean, it's bad for me, but it sucks even harder for you and the editor placing him back in.
Yeah. At this point, I'm probably going just, Control F, search Jaguar, highlight all.
Yeah, exactly.
I love you, Vanessa, but we're going to do them all because I can't.
Right. And I'm like, I can't with myself. I'm going to re-record the whole book.
Oh, not. Oh,
that's kidding.
I know, but that's still, I mean, like even with, so even as something as for me, I love my podcast. I take it serious. It's for me, it's like, I take it as serious as if it was a paying gig. But I also know that it's not an audiobook. There's a difference. And when I make mistakes and I'm like, I can't say it right now. I don't want to take up your time. So I'm going to edit it differently at a different file and things like that. I'm always like, it doesn't sound the same. How do you guys make it sound the same? As if there was no editing out of that Jaguar,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of for me, at least. I used to edit. I mean, I tried to proof my own work, but that was a hot mess. But I used to master my own audio files, and I learned a lot about placement of the mic and where to sit and how to make that sound consistent. And obviously those voice match files that we get are super helpful to match whatever, feeling you had when you were reading it so that it pieces in correctly. Yeah. But yeah, I think the key is like figuring out where you're sitting in the, with the mic.
Yeah.
And having a constant setup.
Yeah. At that point, I'm like, you know what? I tell my editor, I'm just going to redo that entire intro because I just can't for that one word.
Right. Oh
yeah.
My gosh.
Oh, yeah. Because I mean, it's like, I pay attention to where the mic is and stuff like that. I just find it, that's to me, it's like, that's where I like, dip my cap to you guys as far as this is why you're the professional and I'm the podcaster. And we're good with that. I'm okay with that.
Oh man. I mean, we all have to learn though. Yeah. You gotta start somewhere for sure.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I can bet that if you were to listen to a book that you did 5 years ago versus what you're doing now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have so many things to say to myself. And then I have to stop and I'm like, girl, you're doing great. Okay. Everyone has to grow, The good news is that I don't still sound like that.
I know, right? That's the thing too. It's like if I had to listen to my stuff, and I've had to at times, because when a guest has returned or whatever, and it was like 8 years ago when I first started, and I'm going, oh, Vivi.
Exactly.
What were you thinking? No.
I know. A couple months ago, I thought it would be fun to like go back and, and it was not fun. And I almost sent an email to like the couple authors that I started with. And I was like, thinking to myself, I should redo these. I should re-record all of this. And I'm like, no, you ding dong, you don't have time for that. And they probably don't have the budget. They were like royalty shares or whatever. I'm like, I'm not re-recording this. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, that itch is strong, right? I mean, you mentioned you're a perfectionist, so there you go.
Yeah.
You understand that.
Oh yeah. But also wanting to do right by the clients too, you know, you're like, but at the same time, it goes with any skills, whether it's, you know, a knife, you know, doing chef work or engineering stuff, but anything that you learn, it takes, you hone that skill and who you are and developed it 5 years later, 8 years, 10 years, or whatever the case is, 20 books later versus 200. Mm-hmm. I better see an improvement. If not, we need to talk.
Yeah, exactly. If not, you're fired.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm nice though. I'm like, let's talk.
Yeah.
Have that conversation. Yeah.
Let's talk.
Yeah. About that time. Yeah. Anyways. So between working and doing these audiobooks and everything else that you do, because it's not just the reading of the book, you know, people tend to have that misunderstanding. There's so much more to it. When you're not working, what do you do for fun?
I have a lot of loves. I love crafting. I love traveling. I love hiking. I love the beach. And I have an 11-month-old, so I hang out with him quite a bit. And he's super fun. Honestly, it's so I'm finding being a mom is really magical. I worked in childcare for 15 years. And for some reason, it was never this magical as it is watching him like grow and develop, you know? And it's been a great lesson as an audiobook narrator too, because he's so present in every moment, you know? The babies, they can't like look forward to anything. He's where his feet are always. So it's been beautiful to watch. Can my kid be a hobby? I don't think so. Moving on.
Well, no, I mean, I love that you're 11 months in. So you're good. All
right.
But at the same time, I know that, you started this, career prior to having the baby and now you have the baby. So things have had to shift. You used to be able to do the job whenever, as long as there was nothing heavy machinery going on outside. Now you have to realize, okay, after he goes to sleep, how much time do I have? Or, and scheduling that with your husband and all that fun stuff now becomes a lot more work.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, and the crazy thing that I guess I had heard about, but I wasn't I read the statistics about how much they get sick, but and obviously it affects me too. So now we're buying stock in Zicam. We swab ourselves pretty much every day. It's like a vitamin now. To take your Zicam. I mean, we're sick every week. It's insane. Obviously, it can't really work if we're sick. So it's special.
Yeah, I mean, when you do the job, it requires you to have the voice that does. I mean, it's one thing. I think the guys tend to have it more like that whole grovelly morning voice thing, and the listeners go goo goo gaga over it. But it's nasally is not sexy, and nasally and coughing is not good quality books.
Yeah, especially in romance. You're like, girl, check yourself. It's like that Monica from Friends when she gets sick. I don't know if you watch Friends.
Oh yeah, when she was trying to
she's like, I'm ready. It's like, no, girl.
You're ready to go back into your room and get into your PJs.
That's right. It's just like, come on, no, I'm sexy.
Yeah.
Terrible.
No. Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, no. I did actually. We had COVID 6 weeks ago, and and my voice got super low, and I was sending character samples because I was trying not to get too far behind to an author. And I was like, hey, let me know what you think. And I was like, by the way, I have COVID, so it's not going to be this low. And she was like, well, shoot, I actually really like it low. And I was like, okay.
That's the other thing. I mean, when it comes down to it, I know that when I get sick, my register goes down. And so
exactly.
It's huskier, it's a little deeper, and people say oh, you could. I'm like, no, I'm not doing phone anything, thank you, bye.
Right
but that's not my norm. So once I get healthy, I won't be able to go that way, for so long. So yeah.
That's right. So I was like, oh, fuck. Well, you need to hire somebody else then, because I don't know what to tell you. Like, this is going away.
Or we can plan it around the times that I get sick.
Right. Which is every other week. So perfect. I'll get you on the board. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not fun anyways, because no, you shouldn't have to work that way.
No, right? Tell my son that. Stop licking the wheels of our stroller, kid. That's how you're getting sick.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be back in the now. Kids nowadays are like very overprotective. Don't lick this. Don't put that in your mouth. Before, parents would be like, "Yes, lick this," and oh, your kid has chicken pox. Here, sit next to him.
Oh my god!
Because you wanted to get those immunities up and running at a younger age versus older, because that's when it became more an issue. But nowadays, that's kind of frowned upon. Yeah.
It's just so much. Yeah. I mean, he's sick all the time. I hope his immune system and mine, we're double bolstered. We're going to be amazing.
Yeah, that's true. And then again, I'm also like, peopling. It's okay.
Like, no, just going to sit in here.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Stay well.
Yeah. So this interaction, we're good here. This is good. You are talking constantly with words, and even maybe, do you talk like baby talk to your son, or is it more like trying to do words?
You mean like Baba?
Yeah. There's a reason why I'm asking, because there's in the sense of like you work with words all day. And so, and also I'm putting it as a parent, and also I'm like, well, maybe she does do the baby talk. I don't know if that's an account or not, but whatever. Anywho.
Yeah, that's interesting. No, we totally do, but we do all kinds of voices. It's weird. I also make up a lot of words. So I get a lot of head shakes from my husband. He's like, what? Where did you even come up with that? We call him Beans. I don't know why. It is probably a long evolution. And he looks like a Beans. Like, he's just like that kind of character. Like, I don't know. Really goofy little like stunt man. And we live in Queens, in New York. And so every time I see him, I'm like, the Beans of Queens! And Mike's like, this is not even a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get the nickname. My husband is king of that. We had friends that had their first daughter, and it was Peanuts. And then they had their second daughter, and then he continues with the Nuts names, and it becomes Pat. What did I put for it? I don't even remember anymore. But what
other nuts can you use that are okay? Pine nut?
Pine nut was one of them. I go, and stuff like that. But they had 5 kids, so yeah, all girls.
All the nuts.
All
macadamia nut.
Yep. Macadamia. Yep. Almond.
Brazil nut. Now we're investing show.
Yeah, that kind of no. I think he learned his lesson with that though.
Yeah, probably. Some of them work, some of them don't.
Yeah. Gotta love nicknames. But anyways, the reason why I was asking is because my question is like, what is your favorite word?
My favorite word? Ooh, that is a really good question. I don't know. I mean, probably if you did like a word count on curse words, those are probably mostly used.
It's a two-part question. The second part is, what is your favorite curse word?
What's your favorite curse word?
Yeah, but that's you.
I'm classic. I just go with fuck. Okay. There's nothing really. Nothing really. I wish that I had a cool one. We were just talking, I think, before you hit record about coming up with creative curse words. Yeah. I heard recently Mother Nature, and I thought that was pretty funny. Maybe you're like, oh God, I've already done all that. It doesn't work.
Yeah. It's having being bilingual helps too, because when it comes down to some of those Spanish ones, it's almost like in Spanish, you say mierda, and so you go miércoles. So, it becomes shit becomes like, Wednesday. Again, translation gets lost in there.
Yeah.
There's certain things that you can do like that. Or they'll have different, catchphrase like me cago en 10, like I shit on 8. I don't know. Okay. The translation kills it, but very creative on that words. But yeah, that's where I always tell, when I ask this question, I say, what's your favorite word? And the second part to that question is what your favorite curse word is. So they're 2 separate things. But next time, don't worry about it. I will give you the prep work of that for your favorite word next time you come back on the podcast.
Okay, great. And I won't just jump straight to the curse words.
Yeah. You'll be fine. being that you obviously have a love of music, being a music theater major and all that fun stuff, what song is it that no matter where it comes on, so grocery store, in the car, in anywhere that it comes up, what's that song that when it comes on, you have to either sing along or dance to?
Oh, well, I love the song Blackbird, and I'm not a purist on any cover of that song, but I don't really dance to that. Probably anything Just Glenn. Hold My Hand. I probably just once that beat drops, I am out there. I'll dance to anything though. I'm really not picky about that.
Yeah. I just love it when you're in the grocery store and they're in the classic stations and they play something, you're going, that's on the classic station now? Shit. Oh.
Yeah, you're like, wow.
And it's Nirvana, Teen Spirit, and you're like, really?
Huh. Classic.
Oh, okay.
Who knew?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Fun times. Yeah. They never tell you these things when you're a kid about growing up, huh?
Right. Someday you're going to have to check your watch.
Yeah. Oh goodness. No, they're like, what's that?
Yeah. What's a DVD? What's a VHS?
Yeah. Oh yeah. The other day I was at I was at a place where it's known in a city where it's known for its vintage and antiques, and they had 8 tracks somewhere. I'm like, oh damn, they went old school. For those that don't know what 8 tracks is, Google it. Okay. Thank you. Bye.
That's because now there's Google. Okay.
Yes. Before you didn't have it, you use it.
I don't even want to talk to you what it was like before Google.
Oh my goodness. It's called an Encyclopedia Britannica.
Right. We had to look things up.
Yeah. In paper.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. In the library.
Oh goodness. Yeah. Those microfiche.
Who had an encyclopedia at home? I don't think we did.
I think I had one, but it was still an old one, so it probably was outdated at the same time. But I had those really thick dictionaries. I had 2 versions, the ones you took to school, and then you had the Big Mama dictionary, fatty, that had everything. It was almost like an encyclopedia. So yeah, I hear you. Mm-hmm. Now they have Google.
Right, and the dictionaries are online, and you just put it in a search bar. You don't even know. I wonder if my son's even going to know how to look that up. We're going to have to teach him.
Yes, please do.
We should buy a dictionary. I'm in the Amazon Prime. Look at that. I'm in the Amazon Prime myself a dictionary.
Okay, so write this down and do it as a parent. The first time that they ever ask you what does that mean, and you bust out with look it up, that look that they give you, memorize that. Because the first time I told him look it up. Yeah. He said, what does that mean? And I'm like, look it up. And they're like, what?
How do I look it up?
I'm like, dictionary. What's that? I'm like, oh my God, go away.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I don't want to touch the book.
Yeah. It's like, let's work. Anyway.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Fun times again. But speaking of fun times, there's one thing I do love to do with you guys as my guest is to play a little game called 2 Truths and a Lie, where you tell me 3 things about yourself. And I always say we, because I really hope the listeners are playing along, and the listeners and I are going to try to figure out which one's the lie. So if you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay. So tell us your 3 things.
Okay. I was born in Brazil. I am a certified yoga instructor, and I have lived in 8 different states.
Oh, wow.
Do your listeners get to call in and help you guess? You get to phone a friend?
I will tell you that's been on my list of, I wonder how that would work.
Right, exactly. Live time voting.
Yeah, right. And even if it's technically live, I'm like, okay, between this time and this time, I'm going to be asking that question. So just, here's the link to the Zoom. Come on in.
Right.
Yeah, I had to try that with a Patreon just for fun one day. But anyway. But I have thought about that. So we have born in Brazil, certified yoga instructor, and you've lived in 8 different states, of which, from what I know, any one of those 3 can be possible. Is the lie that you were born in Brazil?
No, I was born in Brazil. My dad is Brazilian and my mom is American.
Wow. Okay. So now we're down to 2 people. For those that, did not ask that one. You are a certified yoga instructor is the lie.
No, I am.
Oh my God.
I'm an overachiever. I like to be working on something else at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I thought because you had already traveled with you, I'm like, at this point, she's traveling for, for the different, theater stuff. She probably has lived in 8 states in different times.
No, but I've only lived in 7, and that's the lie.
Oh, dun, dun, dun. Tricky little. Oh.
Tricky.
Minx. I love it. Yeah.
My first rodeo. Listen, sister.
Well, it's just details. You flew by that whole and I was born in Brazil, and then I'm a yoga instructor. So I'm like, that's probably that might be the lie.
Right. But I'm like a small blonde person, so no one would ever guess that I was born in Brazil.
Yeah, and that's honestly a thing that happens all the time.
Right. Exactly.
And, I like to change things up, and I dye my hair blue. So I'm like, try to guess.
I dare you.
I dare you. Well, that's wow. So you have not lived in 8. You've lived in 7. Okay, good.
That's right.
Yep. And you are the overachiever. So you are also, certified in yoga, and your dad's from Brazil. Interesting. So do you know then Portuguese?
I can understand more than I can speak, because I guess in the 80s, my dad was like embarrassed to teach us. So I know he wanted to try to be American, I guess. Yeah. So that's the one thing that my sister and I are both probably our biggest gripe with their parenting. And if that's our biggest gripe, then they did pretty well.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah. But no, that's definitely something that a lot of families back in the 80s suffered with and had to deal with. In our household, it was Spanish in the house and English outside the house. So literally as soon as we went over that threshold, it was English.
Wow.
And then everything inside was Spanish.
Huh. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's like the best of both worlds, but sad that you also had to, I guess that's the only way to really learn English super well.
Yeah, too, they wanted us to be immersed and things like that, and we were born here in the States, so that's the other thing too. Right. They're like, you guys are American, and you have to learn what that culture looks like. And I'm like, but I want to know more about Bistec Empanizado.
Yeah. So where's your family from?
My dad was from Cuba, my mom was from Chile, and my grandmother, her mother, who moved in with us when I was 2, was from Argentina.
Wow. So many beautiful places.
Yeah. So many different ways to get in trouble by saying the wrong word. Because I'm sure. I mean, it's different. I think for you, it was a little different for you because you had one, dialect that was different from the other one. But my God, when one word means different things in different countries.
Yeah.
Oh, the trouble you can get into.
But fun. That sounds like fun.
Lots of fun, lots of great learnings and stuff like that. But trying to remember who you were talking to as far as parenting and what word can and cannot be used in front of them, so you don't get in trouble. Because like the word coño in Cuban is like just saying like damn it or darn. In Argentina and Chile, that's like saying fuck. And you did not want to say coño in front of my mom. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So all that.
I didn't know that. I'm so glad I know that now.
Oh,
I'm taking notes over here, right?
Oh no! I mean, even something as simple as the word straw in Spanish can mean literally a straw that you use to suck the liquid into your mouth, or it could mean a sexual part of somebody's body. Bug. The word bug, bicho, it means literally bug, like almost like an unidentified. That's just a bug. You don't know, you don't want to say roach or whatever. There's a bug, but that also means another sexual parts of the body in a different country in Spanish. And I'm like, oh, this is difficult.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's fun and creative, but yeah. So this is also where, as someone, you're saying you're looking for creative ways to say different curse words or how to say it differently. Yeah, I can probably give you a list.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to put it on the itinerary for our Allure conference.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing. So you're going to Allure. Is this going to be your first book signing of sorts convention, or you've done a couple of other ones?
Yeah, this is my first one. I'm very excited, and I'm excited to do something in person again because I just miss people.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting and fun. Interesting in a good way because I want to see how I like almost like running tests. because I've been to book conventions in the past that have always been predominantly about the eyeball reading type of books and things like that. It would be interesting to see now when you add the mix of the audiobook in there and you have the narrators attending, and if that shifts anything, if there's any, you know, again, running experiments in my head, you know, which lines are longer and why is that?
Yeah, no, I'm curious too, because I've, you know, obviously there's, I guess I don't really know about like narrator signings. So this is pretty, I think it's going to be really interesting. Yeah. Also, I'll probably be fangirling over a bunch of the authors anyway. So. And Vanessa, stay at your table.
Yeah. And I also know there's a lot of authors that are going to be fangirling over other authors, but also fangirling over you guys as the narrators, because they love how you ended up performing their stories. And it's just so fun. And that's where I'm also going, like, this is going to be fun.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what's crazy too is that like I've only met one author that I've worked with in the past, and I've been doing audiobooks for almost 10 years, right?
Yeah.
In the past, I've only met one author face to face. Can you believe that?
Hey,
no, two authors.
Two. Yeah.
That's it. But that's it. Everything else is online, email.
Yeah. But remember also the whole concept of the narrator being out in the real world is also new concepts. I want to say in the past, you know, maybe in the past when you first started, it's been about 5 years that it's been significantly more popular. But when you first start, you don't think about the you know, the social media and the marketing and that aspect of that side of things. You just want to make sure that you pronounce Jaguar the right way. And
that's right. That's so right. And what? They come out of the booth?
Yeah. I'm like, wait, what? You don't sound like that in real life? Because there is such a thing as a narrator voice versus real voice. And
yes.
And stuff like that. So it'll be fun and interesting. I'm excited to get to know a lot of the authors that might be new to me, same with some of the narrators that are new to me, but also catch up with some of my old ones. And I'm like, oh my God, I finally get to give you a hug. Because this is the first of its kind. Usually narrators and the concept of audiobooks are not part of a book signing.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, which is super cool. I'm excited. What a great idea they had.
Yeah. Well, I think it's coming to know that there was an audience there. I mean, my first question in the past, prior to COVID, I think the last 2 or 3 conventions that I went to, when I was talking to the authors, my next question was, so when's the audiobook coming out and who are you casting? And they were like shocked. I'm like, you do audiobooks? Like, yeah. So like, it's not these two separate entities. And I think now authors are starting to realize that it could be one, and align the marketing and connecting and working with and then sharing that. They, you know, a reader may not have never picked up an audiobook, but the sound clip that the author shared sounded really good. So I'm going to listen to it. And oh my God, I'm such a fan now of Vanessa and things like that. So it's just.
Yeah. And I also didn't realize too, that a lot of people will read it. I like strictly listen to books because my eyes get so tired at the end. So I'm a big fangirl for narrators too. But I didn't realize that people actually read the book and they listen to it.
Some do. It's one also again, and the science experiment in me also kind of wants to run like a study. Like, do you listen to the audiobook it's by itself, or do you B, listen and read at the same time, or do you C, switch on and off between the two?
Yeah, I want to know the people who can switch on and off between the two. One of my closest girlfriends, I think she maybe listened to her first audiobook like, I don't know, a couple months ago. And she's like, wait, what? Now I can never read a book again because I feel like I'm missing out on something.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, welcome to the wacky world of audiobooks.
Yeah. And that's have been some readers that they have never picked up another book, you know, unless it's an audio. And then there's been that like, it's not coming out in audio for a while. So you're like, do I wait until it comes out in audio or do I pick up the book? But yeah, it's a fun world. But Allure is going to be so much fun. I hope that are you going to any of the parties?
Yeah, come on. I'm not going all the way there not to go to parties. First in line.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to the Prohibition one because that's just a fun theme to kind of dress up of and stuff like that. And then the gala, I will say I'm a little nervous because I'm doing the red carpet, but it's but that's also why I'm loving talking to you guys now, because I'm going to be like, Vanessa!
That's right. And then we'll be best friends. That's exciting. Is it just you doing the red carpet by yourself?
I am the I am the Lord's, only podcast. I'm the, that person that will be on the red carpet. And I'm like, okay, I can do this. The introvert.
No pressure.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. And it's one thing to do it like by yourself in a room or even on the phone or whatever, but it's another thing to be like out in the, as you say, out in the wild.
Oh yeah. I'm also the girl that I'm trying to figure out how I can be successful on TikTok because I don't like being in front of the camera. And it's one of those where I'm going, okay, if I angle myself on this and make it all about you, because people don't want to see me. They want to see you guys. And it's all about you. I can probably be off camera completely.
Right. Oh,
look, there's Viv, the blue hair. Yes, that's Viv.
Perfect. You like popping every once in a while. Hey, I'm still here.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah. But no, that's one of the reasons where I was like, I am going to have much more fun after talking to you guys here and getting to know you, so I can then bust out with Vanessa. Oh my God, it's so great to finally, or at that point, the good news is I think the gala is like a day or two after the main event, a day. So, people will be hanging out with each other a little bit already. The nerves will be calmed down a little bit more. Yeah. Not so much fangirling coming out of me that way too. So be good.
You can get it all out in the beginning, right?
Yeah. Yep. I may be nice too and bust out with sending everybody an email saying, okay, guys, I'm not going to ask you who you're wearing because I'm not that girl. I will probably ask you what you're working on now. So just have the list ready. Okay. Yeah. And speaking of which, before we do go, because we can probably talk forever, can you tell us what you're currently working on that you can share and what's coming up next for you?
Yes. So, okay. So I mentioned before, I'm currently narrating the 20th book of Chandel Lavan's series. It's called Rotten Witch. So that one's super fun. Talk about changing heroines and different characters taking parts. Hers is really fun. And then one that just came out yesterday that I'm super excited about, this is a new series, a new author for me, is Kenley Davidson's Faceless Mage, which is a new series with Legends of Abrea. So I'm doing all 4 books this summer, and the book one just came out yesterday. Oh, it is so good. No spicy bits, but it's a great romantic, all mystery and adventure and fantasy that is so worth the read. And then I don't know if anyone is a Herrick Chronicle fan, but I just finished 2 more installments with Laurel Chase and Audio Sorceress.
Nice.
For those. Yeah. So those are duet narrations. So
yep, on my list. Yeah, it's exciting.
You're like, okay.
Well, it's one of those okay. And my TBL list is like, Viv, really? I'm like, what? I'm adding it, okay?
Yeah, don't worry. I know my list is so long. I'm like, will I ever get through these? Yes, I will.
I will get to sooner or later. I will get to. Yep, I will get to the end. I still have years to go. We're good.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Vanessa, for taking the time to hang out with me today. It's been such a pleasure getting to know you and chatting with you.
Thank you for having me. This was so fun, and I'm so looking forward to seeing you in person.
Me too. It's gonna be fun, and we will be providing you listeners with every of her social media links, so you guys can follow her as well. So that way you get to know her better, see what's coming up. See if she'll share any of her bloopers. I'm just kidding. No pressure.
Yeah, I'll definitely work on that.
Yeah.
But I do share all of new releases and what I'm working on. So I try to be a fangirl for all my authors as well.
That's awesome. Thanks for doing that. I sometimes y'all, what are you working on? I want to know.
Right, exactly.
Sharing is caring. So we'll be including all her links on this episode's post over at Viviana, Enchantress of Books. And until next time, happy listenings.
Thank you to all of our Audiobook Lovin Podcast Patreon. Special thanks to Nixley Zenner, Carol Liebner, Brittany Robinette Leiter, Dawn Darch, Michelle Bastard. The Audiobook Lovin Podcast has special Patreon access levels. Join today to receive benefits including early access to episodes, shout-outs, special exclusive content, and much more. Support the podcast by becoming a Patreon at www.patreon.com/Audiobook Lovin. We thank you for your support.
Thank you for joining us on the Audiobook Lovin Podcast, hosted by Viviana, Enchantress of Books. For links and more information discussed in today's episode, previous podcasts, or the Audiobook Lovin Series, please visit our website, vivianaenchantressofbooks.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a positive review wherever you listen to our podcast. Until next time, happy listening.